Hello and welcome to my channel. I am Stephanie. This is the Let Me Introduce You series. The Let Me Introduce You series is where I interview authors that I have found and enjoyed and want more people to check out. And get into their books, maybe even learn about a bit about their process of working and writing. So at this time, let me introduce you to this is Amie Knight. Amie, please introduce yourself to us.
I'm Amie Knight. I write contemporary and new adult romance. Most of my stuff is kind of feely, but also spicy. And I'm really happy to be here. I'm excited because I love Stephanie.
Yay! I love you too. I really enjoy your books. Now, I haven't read one in a while. Well, beginning of this year is
The
when I
final
read the
Mhm.
final play. So that was fun. I really enjoyed that. But before we get into the books, when did you realize that you wanted to be a writer?
Oh goodness, I should bust them out and take some pictures. When I was in 8th grade, I had a really awesome teacher. His name was Mr. Ivy, and I'm friends. I found him on Facebook because I think about this man often because he was my English teacher that year, and instead
Mm-hmm.
of like saying, this is what we're going to do and this is what we're going to read, he gave us a syllabus. It was my first syllabus ever because you get those like in college
Yeah.
or in high school honors classes. So
Right.
he gave me my first syllabus, and it was like, this is what you're going to do this year. You're going to pick a book and you're going to write something about it. And you're going to write about this. And then you're going to write about that. And then you're going to write about this. And it was a list, and we could take our time. He let us be creative, and he never told us no. And so I wrote so much that year. And I also became a member of the yearbook committee, which he did. And I wrote a lot of stuff for that. And I also did a poetry book with him through the school. And I have a lot of my stuff like still in boxes, like poetry and short stories and stuff that I wrote in his class, because that is when I realized I loved to write. Like, and prior to this, Stephanie, it's crazy. It's crazy because when I was in elementary school, I was actually in remedial reading.
Okay.
I did not read well. I had a single mom who couldn't devote a lot of time to homework and things. She worked like 16 hours a day. My mom worked 3 jobs my whole life. So
Mhm.
I had no idea like how awesome reading and writing was until his class. It's like everything just kind of snapped together for me. And then
Oh, that's
I took
amazing.
off in high school, and I wrote a lot in high school and did all the writing things in high school as well, like journalism and all that stuff. So
Mhm.
I owe Mr. Ivy. I need to dedicate a book to him, but that would be so weird to send him a romance novel in the mail dedicated to him, I think, because now he's like, I don't know, he's still teaching, but he's like in his late 60s maybe. And so
That's amazing.
he's still out there like doing it. And I'm like, man, he was such a good teacher. So yeah.
Oh, wow. So you write new adult and contemporary. So does that coming to writing early sort of feed into your writing in those genres?
I think so. No, maybe. I write romance because my grandmother and my mother read romance. And so they were the first books that I loved. I remember taking my mom's books out of her room way before I should have, probably like at 14, and reading like I loved historical romance because that's what my mom read, like Catherine Coulter and big romance novels that were all historical. But my grandma loved westerns, and so I read a lot of
Okay.
westerns too. And they would pass them back and forth to me. We all shared books, and that's why I write romance. Now I think I like to write new adult because I like to write angst. And that's when you make
Mm,
all the bad decisions in your life, right? Is when you're in
right.
when you're in high school and college, you just do all the wrong things, and you look back and go, "Man, those were a bunch of." But that's the best times and the worst. So I like to write those. But yeah, that's probably why I
Mm.
write contemporary and new adult.
I love it. So, are you a traditionally published, independently published, or a hybrid of those?
Well, I'm an indie author in the United States, but I do have some trad like stuff in other countries. But here I publish all my own stuff. I arrange all my own. It's a lot of work, but worth it. Worth it. I've never tried to do traditional. I've never even tried because everybody kind of talked me out of it right away. All of my author friends who were like, you can do this, because I was a blogger before. They were all like, you can do it yourself. Don't let the trad companies take your money, girl. And so I was like, okay, I can do it myself. And it is probably a lot more work that way, but it is a lot more rewarding. And I get to do what I want to do for my covers and have my books be the way I want them to be, and nobody telling me how to write them or how to make them.
I love that. I love that. So we sort of touched on the fact that are you a reader now?
I'm a voracious reader. I read like 2 books a week at least. It's sometimes if it's like a short Ruby Dixon book or something, I can knock out 4 or 5. I would rather read than write, which is the problem. I love to write, but it's second to reading.
I know that well. I know that well. See, and that's probably why I'm not a writer, because I'm like, I'm just going to stick to reading.
I know. I feel like I'd be like right now, you'd probably rather be reading a book, than doing like work, right?
Well, no, because I get to chat with you, and we don't get to do that very
That's
often.
true.
So,
That's
you
true.
know.
That is true. Yeah, I love to read. So I read a lot. And it's sometimes, like if I'm reading a really good book, I have to be like, you cannot read this today. When the kids go to school, you go to your office and you sit in front of a computer and you write. But I do try to read really different books than I write.
I was just about to ask that. What genres do you read when you read?
When I read and I'm writing at the same time, I read a lot of crazy stuff. I like post-apocalyptic stuff. But it's all romance. And I love like monster romances. I love Ruby Dixon. I'm a huge Ruby Dixon fan. Like I have her. I think they're up there. They're like in the prime spot. Okay, so like if your books make it here, there's Ruby Dixon, and there's Laura Thalassa.
Okay.
Those are both like no way. Like I don't have their world building capabilities. Like I can never create. I have to write in this world because I am just not there. So like I like to read books that are not of this world really, that are like I said, post-apocalyptic or aliens or monsters or vampires. I love vampire books. And that I do read a lot of like traditional romance too, like
really
Mariana Zapata. I read a lot of her books because I love a slow burn. I want like a handhold to feel like you just made sweet, sweet love to her. Like I want you to draw it out. I want to like work for every bit of it, which is most of my books are slow burn because of that. I enjoy that. This book I just finished is not, and it's very different than anything I've written. It's so sexy. It was a lot of sex. It was like, whoa.
Ooh, I can't wait.
And I just told it. So yeah, usually mine are slow burn because I love slow burns. So I kind of, I kind of want to write what I love, but not everybody's story can be the same. So yeah, but I also read, I have LH Causeway, RK Lily. They all write pretty like, I love RK Lily stuff. When is she going to release another book? Can we talk about that?
I know, right? I know. This hiatus needs to go. Her sabbatical needs to stop.
Exactly, girl, come on.
Right?
She got one like maybe 2 years ago or 3 years ago. It was the
which one was that?
It was the I have it because I buy all her paperbacks because I'm a sucker. I buy an ebook and paperback. She's the one. It's the one where it's like a marriage of convenience, I think. But she put out one, and then I was like, "Oh, maybe she's back at it." She was like, "Psych."
I may have missed it. I might have missed it
because I might have to send you a link to it because it was so good, so good. So I love her books. She's a great writer, and they tick all my boxes, for like sexy and spicy and emotional and funny. Like she's got all that.
Exactly. I love that. I love that. So, where do you find your inspiration to write your books?
Oh gosh. Um, all around me, I guess. Like, um, when I am traveling, I always get ideas, which is nice. When I'm in another country or another setting, I'm like, I see something and I'm like, I could write a book about that. Or like, um,
What is their story type thing,
right,
right?
what would their
Okay.
story be? You know, like you see something
Okay.
or somebody, or
Mhm.
like the line. When I wrote the line, I was in DC actually. When I first
Okay.
started writing it, my husband works there, and so he
Okay.
travels there every month or so, and for a week. And so he works from home. So
Oh.
anyway, my kids are on year-round school. So we often take like a month
Oh.
break in the middle, like every 9 weeks, which
That
is
is interesting.
it's really awesome because we travel anytime then. Like you can be like, okay, we don't have to just go to Disney in the summer. We can go in October or we can go in January, like things like
Mhm.
that. So we went to DC for a whole week. No, a whole month.
Okay.
And we did like everything, because there's so many free things to do there. I mean, you can just
Yeah. The
so
Smithsonian has so much going on
right?
that people just don't realize, because all of the Smithsonian museums are free, and it can be a lot of fun. It can be time consuming,
Ooh,
but
girl, like you walk like 18 miles a day. We were averaging like 12 to 18 miles a day. But my
wow.
kids loved it because they were like, the subway was cool, the buses, because we live out in, the country, and
Okay.
not near any like big Raleigh, but Raleigh's not a big city compared to like DC or like these other areas. So
Yeah,
they
that's
were like,
true.
yeah, they were like, what? We get to ride the bus, we get to take like they loved it. But I
Please tell me you guys stood on the right side and walked on the left, right?
Yes,
In the
we did.
metro?
Look,
Okay.
we got so many dirty looks the first time we did it wrong. We were like, never. I was like, never again. We're not going to be those people.
Because I'm located about 30 minutes from
Right.
DC, and I used to work in DC, and
Uh-huh.
it was always the travelers that decided to come to DC, and it would be like, get out of the way. I'm trying to make my train.
I know. Look, and I'm like, go on, because I got these kids, because they were like, I think the kids were really little at the time. Like Violet was
Okay.
probably like 3.
Oh
So
wow.
I'm trying to drag them. Look, and my husband was working, so it was just me some days, and the
Hmm.
2 kids, and we got lost a lot. Um, And I was like, it's okay. We'll just take another subway back. Like we're not gonna
Yep.
do it. But I did notice while I was there the huge homeless population, and
Oh yeah.
that was hard to explain to the kids because they had never. I mean, how
Mm,
how privileged, how privileged. I did not grow up that way, but my kids are very privileged to grow up that way that they've never even
right.
seen until that trip. Um, and so I said, damn, I'm going to write a book about a homeless girl. That's what I'm going to write. And I wrote the line, and the line is still like, I'm not going to lie, it's one of my favorites that I've ever written. And
I do love it.
yeah,
I
I
do
think
love it.
about it often, because that book was one of those books where it just flew. Like I sat down to write, and I
Mhm.
would blink and I would have like 5,000 words.
Oh
I do.
wow.
So it just came. Some books are harder won, and then other ones just fly, and you're like, wow, that was so amazing. And that's how you know, like you're in it, like you're
Hmm.
really feeling it. So yeah, so that's how. So honestly, I just see things, and then I'm like, I see somebody, and I think they have a story, and I want to write it. And honestly, it was very nice to give the young girl that I saw who was homeless in DC a happy ending in a book. Because that's
That
all I
is
could do
beautiful. Oh my
besides
goodness.
$5 bill. You know what I mean? Like that was it. And so that's how I get a lot of my ideas.
Okay, so are you a pantser or a plotter?
I'm a pantser. I hate myself. It is so annoying. I have tried, like, there's all kinds of plotting devices and like
Mhm.
plotting tools out there. And my friends are always like, you just need to plot. I'm a slow writer anyway. So And I'm probably a slow writer because I'm a pantser, because I don't have a plan. Usually I'm just like, oh, there was that homeless girl, I'm gonna write her a book. Let's just start. What's her name? I don't know. We're gonna star, and we're just gonna write. Where does she live? I don't know. Star. I'm just not prepared in the beginning. Okay, so I say that the first 20K, Stephanie, I'm pantsing. The first 40K, I'm probably still pantsing. I get to 40,000 words, and then I know that everything that's going to happen the rest of the book, because I have half to go, and I know it in my mind. And so I have books. Let me see where it is. I have books that are just, it's probably my book pack, books and books and books, notebooks that are just the second half of every book I've ever written.
That's amazing.
Very weird.
So
I'm scared I'm going to forget something, because you set up all that in the beginning,
right?
And then you have to make sure all that's neat and tidy with a bow at the end. And so I'll be like, oh, I don't want to forget that, so I write it down. Make sure to do this scene. Make sure to do this scene. And so I have the last half usually of every book I've ever written in notebooks, tons and tons, like probably like 5 or 6. I don't know why I keep them, because I'm a hoarder, but I have them.
No, because when you do interviews like this, or when somebody asks you about a certain book, you can always go back. That's why, like, my husband gets on me about all of the notebooks that I have, because I have all of my reviews and things like that in notebooks, and they're just like around the house. And he's like, "Why do we have to keep these?" And I'm like, "Because I've been doing content for how many ever years now, and I need to be able to go back and look at it." So,
and I'm sure with Book Talk, as it is now, like people can ask for book recs or something, or you can go back to a book that you read 4 years ago, look at your notes and say, okay, yeah, I remember. Right. And now I can recommend this, or I can't recommend this book based on what I read. Right. So,
exactly.
because everything's changing all the time, like social media and how it's coming along. You need those things,
Oh yeah, definitely. Because I've just even recently read a couple books that I did a reread of, and I was just like, okay, this says that I gave it 5 stars 4 years ago. Why did I love this? Because now that I'm listening to it or reading it now, ooh, I'm seeing things in a very, very different light.
Well, also, I think that, we're all becoming more educated.
Yes.
And sometimes I read stuff now. There's one book that I read in particular many years ago that I did not notice, that came to light on Book Talk. And I had to go back and actually read that portion, because I was like, was that in that book? Because I would have noticed. I would have said something. I would have blacklisted this author.
Exactly.
And I did.
Yep.
And
I feel that completely.
Shook.
Completely. I am with you on that one. So since we're bringing up hard topics and things like that, how do you feel about trigger warnings and sensitivity and things like that?
So I used to be a no trigger warning girl. I used to think they were spoilers, and I used to be like, ew, like that ruins.
Why are you ruining the book? Yep.
Why do you want to know? I don't even read reviews before I read a book.
Neither do I.
Some people go in and scour them and look for and hit 1 star on Goodreads. I have author friends who are totally like that. They're like, I don't want to read a surprise baby book, by accident. And I'm like, what? That's the joy. It's
exactly.
So, but now that I have heard so many people discussing it, I'm like, oof, I can see why this would be an issue for some people, And so I'm torn, because I don't like this. I don't want to spoil anything. So I'm really trying to be more proactive about putting trigger warnings in my books, because I've never done that before. And my books have a lot to do with grief, a lot of them death, PTSD, emotional trauma.
Right.
And I'm like, oof, I probably should be telling people this. And I'm like, you can tell people this without spoiling it. You can just say, hey, this has this in it. You don't have to
Just
give them
those words that you just used are non-spoilery. It doesn't give a whole entire situation or anything like that,
right,
but letting the reader know that, hey, this book deals with grief, let someone know that if they're in the headspace of grieving themselves for something, that this may not be the book for them at that moment in time,
right,
taking on someone else's grief while they're grieving. So just
right.
saying grief is a trigger warning all in
Yeah,
itself. So
this book contains, this woman is grieving for the loss of someone.
mhm.
My mom, my grandmother just passed, and I haven't really told anybody about it because it's sad, and I'm deeply personal when it comes to like I'm like that girl that hides her sadness. So I don't talk about things like that usually on social media or anything. But my grandma passed, I would say about 5, 6 months ago, and my mom was her caregiver later in life because my
Mm,
grandmother had Alzheimer's and dementia, and my mom cared for her, which is a hard job. Um,
mhm.
and for 10 years. So now that she's passed, my mom is grieving really terribly. And um, the book I'm working on now, A Wild Heart, is a book about grief. It's very sad at some points. Like there were times when I was writing it and I was just sobbing.
Ballad, right?
Um, and it was even hard for me to write losing my grandmother because we were very close. I lived with her until I was like 10. We were very
Mhm.
close. So my mom always reads my books right after
Mm.
they're done. And so, speaking of trigger warnings, I was like, Mom, I don't know if you should read this book right now. And she's like, but I really want to. I love your books. And she's so supportive. I love her. And my grandmother always read my books too. And I was like, maybe we just wait. Just wait a little bit. I have a holiday story coming out soon that I'm working on, and you can read that one. That one's so much fun. But no, she's like, send me that book as soon as it's back from the proofer because
Oh, you never know. It might help her through her grief.
it might, because I always have an HEH. There's always a light at the end of the tunnel, and that's the moral of
Mhm.
the story when it comes to grief. But yeah, so I even had to give my mama a trigger warning on this one. I was like, Mama, I
See?
don't know. So I
Ever
think that
changing.
that's the trigger warnings. They should be there. And I'm definitely going to work on doing better with putting them in my books.
That's amazing. So, do you employ sensitivity writers?
I do.
Okay.
Um, I actually, um, I actually have I actually have. How do I do this without spoiling? Okay. Um, I'm like,
Oh, see, now I'm really intrigued. I'm like, what exclusive am I getting right now?
um, so this is the first book that I ever had to have somebody from the LGBTQ community sensitivity read my book. So I will say
Oh,
that.
okay.
And I usually have, if I have Black characters, I have Black sensitivity readers, people of color. If I have gay characters, I want gay sensitivity readers. If I have um, a certain job that is very taxing, like a police officer or a firefighter or a military vet, I try to find people or spouses of those people to read my books. I beg, and I'm like, I will send you a book. I will pay you. I will. What do you want me to do? Just to read my book. It's important. It's important to stay educated. Um, and I won't say I don't believe in cancel culture because it's bullshit. Oops, sorry. Can I say that?
Yeah, you
Okay.
can curse. Feel free. Let it
I mean,
go.
people say there's cancel culture, but there's not. We see authors that have done cruddy things get movie deals, who are homophobic, who are racist, who still have um,
Massive followings and
massive
followers.
followings and people
Ugh,
defending them, and it's gross.
yeah.
But anyway, cancel culture isn't real. So we can try to cancel people, but it doesn't work. So I think that it's important to stay educated, and honestly, the people who aren't educated, when people just say, hey, you did this and you need to fix it, all they have to say is, I'm going to do better and I'm going to fix it. And that's the major problem with authors nowadays. They don't say that. They just
Very simple line.
They have all the excuses like this. It's like, don't make excuses. Just say, like, if ever, oh my God, I can't imagine. I would just say, I'm so sorry. Let me fix this right away. I apologize. My books are not ever meant to be hurtful. And so sensitivity readers are so important.
That's amazing. I'm speechless.
I like that.
Alrighty, let's try something lighter at this point.
Okay.
So would you say your books and your writing is salty, sweet, spicy, or savory, or a combination of all of them?
It's probably all of those. I get a lot of, oh, your books are funny, but they're also sad. Like, I have my beta readers are always like, I love how you make me cry, and then in the next paragraph you give me a laugh. Like, because I don't like to just stab you in the heart over and over again. Like, and also like my form of like how I cope is laughter. Like,
Okay.
you know, like if I'm having a bad day, I'll look back on it later that night and be like, that was crazy, right? Like, you know, like that's how I make myself feel better is, wow. Like even my kids, like if I yell at them or something, like later that day, I'm like, I'm sorry, I was a nut today, right? They're like, yeah, man, what the hell is wrong with you? And we laugh, you know, like,
Right.
I'm like, oh, I was just having a bad day. I'm sorry, y'all. You know, like you have to laugh to get through things. And then I think they're also, my books are really sweet. There's a lot of sweet moments. There's a lot of savory moments, a lot of heart wrenching, a lot of like just oof, you know. But there's also a lot of like funny moments. So I think just a little bit of everything, and I try to, especially my heart series. I feel like it's like a little bit of everything. My Somerville sports series, I try not to be too deep in those because they're sports romances. So there's a lot more funnier moments, lighter moments in those books. So going back and writing the Heart series recently, the fourth book, which I wasn't planning on writing, but then I was like called to me.
Okay.
I was like, it's nice. Like, I'm like, this is my sweet spot.
Okay.
You know, I feel like my sweet spot is in those sad books, unfortunately, that just have a lot of feels. And I like to be there and I like to not pull back. Because I find like, you know, the sports series, I was pulling back a little bit, like, oh, I don't want to make her too sad. I don't want to like give her too much trauma. This is supposed to be more of a fun series. And it was, and it did, and it is.
Right.
But those are not my sweet spot. My sweet spot is, you know, writing really emotional books.
Now, so you're a pantser, but at the same time, the Heart series has so many aha moments within each book that connect them. And as you decided to write them, did you have to go back and look at your little notebooks to make sure that the connections were there?
I reread. I don't even look at my notebook.
Oh, you reread your own books?
It's awful. It's not fun because I'm like, especially See Through Heart, because I wrote See Through Heart's my first book. But See Through Art is also I was grieving really bad when I wrote that book. It was supposed to be one book in the series. There was no plan for Holden and Miranda, which everybody loves. Everybody loves Holden and Miranda to this day. And there was no plans for them. There was no plans for Kelly and Anthony. There was nothing. And when I wrote that book because my sister overdosed and she is still in a coma from it. And I wanted to educate people on how mentally ill people self-medicate. And bad things happen. And it's a whole thing in the author's note in the back. And I wanted to educate people on that. And it helped me grieve because, like I said, I'm not really a public griever. Like, I don't cry a lot in public. I'm really embarrassed by emotions. And so I hadn't properly grieved yet. And I was like, I'm just going to write this book. And so I wrote it. And I thought it would be one and done. And Allie Martinez actually proofed it for me.
One of the queens of torture, emotional torture.
Right.
Yes.
She read it for me. And she was like, she wrote me, she was like, I'm crying, girl, this is good. You know, she was so supportive, and she was just like, you can do it. You can release this book. It's going to be good. And she really helped me round out a lot of scenes, because I wasn't ready yet. You know, like for like
Mm-hmm.
that book was such heavy subject matter.
Right.
She was like, you need to add more here, or you need to like do this here, and she helped me a lot. Thank goodness. But even going back and rereading it, there's a million things I would do different, because it was my first book. And you come a long way. So I reread them,
Mm-hmm.
and then and even with this fourth Heart book, there's a lot of Holden and Miranda in it, because
Okay.
um, Holden's best friend dies in battle with him, in combat with him, and it's his wife's book, the best friend's wife's book.
Okay.
And so she moves closer to Holden and Miranda to start a new life, and it's her book. And I had to go back, and I'm so glad I reread it, girl, because like I went back and I was like, I forgot, there was the things I forgot, Stephanie.
See, now you're gonna make me go back and reread it before
I know, like, girl,
I read Wild Heart, and I'm like, okay.
Well, and
Oh,
I'm gonna do.
I'm like I'm already getting teary eyed just thinking about Holden Miranda. I'm just like, I remember how emotionally like just in tune with that book. That one, I would like if I was to rank them, and I hope you don't take this offense to this,
No,
but if I was to rank them, I would rank them Steel Heart and Imperfect Heart, then See Through Heart.
Yeah.
For that series.
Right.
I mean, I was emotionally connected with See Through Heart, but a Steel Heart got me because of the whole military connection. And then Imperfect got me because it was a kid. And I was just like, because I want to say I arc read Imperfect like on Mother's Day, I think it was, because I think I made note.
Oh my
that
gosh,
I
so
read
many
it.
people were like, why did you do this on Mother's Day? You are the devil.
I think I spent the day in bed reading that book, being just, oh, I'm a mom, and
The things we'll do for our children, and that's
right?
really what that book was about. Yeah, and so many people had that in their reviews. I think I sent out arcs like a week before Mother's Day, and everybody sat down to read that Sunday, and I was like,
Yep.
"You picked the wrong day." I'll the right day, because it's really.
But it was good. It was.
Mom. Yeah.
It was. It gave that extra layer of connection. And so when you're writing books, because like the final play is about two brothers, and dealing with that along with a accidental. Well, was it accidental or was it just secret? But
I mean, what do you think?
Both are my catnip, so it didn't really bother me.
I think accidental probably more. You can go, but yeah, I like those books. Like, so not everybody does. They're not everybody right. That's okay.
Definitely. So, we talked a little bit about diversity. Which books of yours would you consider more diverse than others?
Let's see. I feel like my football books are diverse. There's lots of Black characters in the books, and I try to stay true to sports. There's tons of Black people, Black men who play sports. If you are writing sports romance and you don't have Black football players, you are wrong. I'm going to say it, because there are Black football players more than there are white football players. So get a grip, reevaluate, and put some Black people in your books. Also, the Stars duet, Adam is Hispanic. So he's my only person of color that's a main character, I believe. Now, I have lots of Black people in my books, best friends. I have lots of gay people. But it is, I think, important to have, it is important to have those people in your books. I think that if you are white like I am, and you're going to write a main character that is not white, it can be daunting and scary as hell, because it's not enough to say, half of my family's black. Half of my family's black. Okay. So my brother's black. My stepdad's black. I grew up that way. My mom is white. It's not enough to say that.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't qualify me to write black men. I don't know their experiences. I don't know black women's experiences. So most of my main characters are modeled after what I know. When I wrote Adam, I was nervous. I'm even nervous about this upcoming book because it's very diverse in a different way.
Okay.
And I always want to do it justice. But yes, so I think the line has Cody, who's gay, who's a treat. He's a snack.
Love. Are we getting a second book there? Because I've always wanted his story, ma'am.
So I've written 25,000 words of this book. It has been sitting on my computer for probably 4 years now.
See, that's what I thought. That's what I thought I had. Remember,
I even have a bourgeois cover. Like, it is so pretty. It is like, I'm like, I have the cover. I have the 25,000 words. But it's man. I've never written that, it's not going to be full length. It'll probably be it's almost done, to be honest. And I'm a chicken shit, and I keep pulling back and being like, I'm going to release this instead. Just because it's man. I'm like, I've never done this. And I don't know how and I love reading. I read gay romance all the time. I read whatever, So, man, I love that. I love it. And so, like Ella Frank's books, like Try and that series, or like, I've reread those like 5 or 6 times, Logan and Tate, but I get scared. And so I just haven't put it out. But yes, Cody has a book, and he even has a cover, and it's almost done. my friend Kate, who does my covers for a lot of my special edition stuff, and she did the one for Cody's book. She's like, when are you going to release that book? Because that cover is good. You're hiding it. And I'm like, I know, I should release that. So I think that might be something I could work on over the holidays, because it's not going to be like super taxing.
Right.
And maybe try for early of year release. I do need to do it. But yeah, you have him, and you have the Stars Duet, which is Adam. He's a Hispanic main character. His whole family's Hispanic. And I really tried to do that justice. And I had a sensitivity reader, and she loved it. So it was A-okay. And I haven't got any complaints so far. So, and if I did, I would just fix it. I would say sorry and fix it. So authors, if you're listening,
just say sorry and fix it.
Fix it. Damn. Then I have, let me see. And all my football player boots have a ton of, but there are some that you said are like more diverse than others. And this one, A Wild Heart, that's coming in October, is also, it's very diverse and in the LGBTQ way. So I'm hoping that I do it justice. It's at my sensitivity readers right now, and she's had it for like 5 days, and I want to be like, girl, come on, message me. Okay. Did I do something wrong? So let's hope. Fingers crossed.
Awesome. So if you could pick one of your books, I'm making you pick one of your babies. Which one would you make into a movie? Which one would you make into a TV show? And which one would you do as a limited series?
Oh man, that's hard. This is tough questions.
See, in the past interviews, I've made people just pick one book and which one of those formats, but I'm be mean to you and make you pick 3.
Okay. So for a movie, A Steelheart. It would be a great movie. No hate to anybody, but it'd be better than that Purple Hearts movie that's on.
I have so many mixed feelings about that. Oh my goodness.
Look, I had to turn it off because I said, no, thank you. But yeah, I think that there are better ways to do military romances for sure. So I think that one would be a great movie. And then I feel like the Stars Duet would make like a great, what'd you say, show?
TV show and then limited series. So like Netflix or network TV.
Right. So like like Netflix, I feel like they could make a really good show out of it because there was a lot of drama, like a lot of crime,
Mm-hmm.
like suspense.
Yeah, there
Yeah,
was.
yeah, it like like it would you could really drag it out. And then I feel like my football books would make such a fun like uh TV series. I mean, like you
Yeah,
know what I mean? Like 'cause
yeah.
they're all like buddies and like it just Friday Night Lights feels. You know what I mean?
Yes,
Like I feel like
definitely.
yeah,
And they could grow into, series upon, I mean,
yeah,
seasons upon series
right,
because it's a whole football thing in their lives and,
right. And
after
they all
effect.
play like well, except for
Mhm.
Ollie, but the two and like Mason and Luke play for the same team, so like you could really get to know
Mhm.
their team. I think it would just be like really fun.
Okay, so for your movie for Steel Heart, who would you fan cast as your Miranda
Oh, as my Miranda. Oh my gosh. So
and Holden? We're
okay,
gonna do both, but I,
okay,
I want to know your fan cast for these two.
okay. So for Miranda, the like okay, so this is gonna sound crazy, but when I wrote Miranda, I pictured what's the girl's name from Enchanted? I cannot remember it right now. She's
Amy Adams.
Amy Adams.
Okay.
Young Amy Adams is Miranda for me. She was always the whole time, she just bubbly, sunshiny, never like you can do whatever you want to her. Like, because Miranda was like her mom was shit, she
Hmm.
didn't really have a great upbringing, but she was still like a good person. And she like, she was just happy all the time.
Hmm.
So Holden's like, super, super grump.
Right.
Um,
Who are
so
we
yeah,
fan casting Holden as?
Amy Adams definitely. Now I'm like thinking on Holden. Oh, who's the guy?
See, now I'm trying to think back. I'm like, what attributes? Because see, in some ways, I kind of want Holden to be like a David Batista,
Yeah,
but then I'm like, The Rock could do it, but I don't know if I
yeah.
could see him as Holden.
No, The Rock's probably too happy, honestly.
Yeah.
Um, maybe. I mean, he does some serious roles, but like,
Hmm.
um, so the guy in P.S. I Love You, is it Gerard Butler? Am I thinking of the right guy?
Yes. Yep.
I could see him as Holden. Um,
Okay.
he's got that intensity.
Hmm.
Holden's super intense and everything's a lot. And so I could see him doing it. Almost always I picture Henry Cavill because that man is gorgeous and like
And everything.
he
And
could be in
everything.
anything and make it look good.
Yes.
But I think probably Gerard Butler for me.
Okay. Alrighty. Who are three of your go-to authors to recommend?
Oh wow. I think I've told you. RK Lily. I always tell people to read her books. I'm like, have
Uh-huh.
you read Tristan and Danica? Because if you haven't read Tristan and Danica, you're making mistakes. Are those not the best new adult books ever? I mean, really,
Yes.
they're new adult all the way to contemporary. Because what are they in their 40s or something when it's over?
Are they really?
Oh my gosh, yeah. It starts out and she's like very young,
Yeah.
and then I think at the end, like they're like in their late 30s or early 40s, I believe.
Wow.
It spans their whole adult.
Maybe I just
Really,
kind of squished them into the new adult bubble, but see now I'm
no.
gonna have to go back and reread those.
I reread those
Amy,
all
you're
the time.
you're making my reading list here, and I hardly ever reread books,
I
so
I'm guilty. Mhm.
yeah.
So I love them. I love those books. So I recommend those all the time. People are like, new adult angst. I'm like, RK Lily's got you with Tristan and Danica.
Yeah.
Um, I love, I'm looking at my bookshelves. Because I've been when I joined this community, it was a long time ago as a blogger. So probably like
Mhm.
10 years ago or something. And those are still some of my favorite reads from that time. Like when I
Yes.
first found the indie book community,
Yep.
where I was like, oh, these books are so different than like
Exactly.
grad books, right?
Yep.
And I always recommend Ali Martinez. Always, if you say suspense, then I say Allie. That's
Yep.
those two things are synonymous for me, and that's not just because she's my friend. It's because her books are amazing.
Oh yes. I
Right?
just saw her. I saw she was on one of the panels at a Polycon, and I was just like, you like to angst us and break our hearts and then give us this cliffhanger and then make us wait like 3 weeks and then you give us the ending to your story and just leave us in all sorts of
She's like the queen of duets, suspense
yes.
duets, where you have to wait those 2 weeks. I want to look. I beta read a lot of her books, and I have for since her second book.
Oh
When
wow.
she released her first book, she sent it to the blog I worked on, and I had
Okay.
no idea who she was. And she said, "Would you be interested in reading this?" And I thought, "This looks kind of good.
Mm-hmm.
I like this." And I read it, and I said, "Oh my god." Oh my God, she is going to be huge. And then I started
Yeah.
telling all my blogger friends, I was like, this girl she sent me a book and I don't know who she is. I honestly thought maybe she was a trad author that had
Really?
written under a pen name at first because it was that good. Like I was
Mm.
like, what was it? Broken Course? Is that the first one? I'm trying to remember what it's called. No,
Yeah. I thought that one was, or is it the upside down?
no,
The
that is that series, but I don't know. I can't
um,
remember the name. And anyway, I have them all on my shelf because I have all of her books because I love them. But I read that first one and I was like,
mm.
she's lying. There is no way this is her first book. I'm calling like, and then she was like, she was supposed to be signing at a signing here in Greenville, North Carolina, Greensboro.
Okay.
And at the same time, like that same span, and her sister ended up having to have like brain surgery or something, so she had to pull out. And I had like a stack of her books to get signed because I was going to give them away on the blog, and I loved it so much. And she was like, just give those away, and I'll mail you signed copies. Like she was so nice. She felt so bad.
Mm-hmm.
And, she won me over because she was like a good person who was also like amazingly talented, and I knew she was going places. Like I was like, this lady is going to take over the world, and she has.
Yep.
So
She has.
yeah, so I always recommend her books because they're just, they make you cry, they'll make you laugh, and you
Mm-hmm.
will. I have been beta reading her books, like I said, now for like, I don't know, 7 years, and I still go like, and I try to guess now because and she hates me for it because I'm like, you gonna do this? She's like, no, I'm not. I'm like, this is gonna happen. She's like, wrong. She loves to make it even harder now, I think, because she knows we're all like looking for the twist because there's
Yep.
Allie Martinez twist. We always expect it. So those books I always recommend. I recommend L.H. Causeway. She is underrated.
Very much so.
Underrated. Not enough people talk about her books. And I think it's because she's not huge on social media. She's not out there pushing her stuff. I think that she writes purely for the joy of writing, and it speaks in every one of her books. I would recommend her. She has a Heart series. Read her Heart series because those books are like, I mean, Painted Faces, what really got me with her. And it's an interesting book because he dresses in drag, and so Painted Faces. And so it's like it's very diverse and really respectful of that. And I loved that book. But her Heart series it's like centered around a circus, and it's like one of them's like a flamethrower, and he's really into fire, and that's kind of a kink in the book. And then like the last book in that series, I cried almost that entire. It rocked me to my core. She's so eloquent and well spoken and well written. This woman can write a book. Read her books, L.H. Causeway. So, and I love all the other ones. Like I love Kristen Ashley, and I love all the original OGs. Don't get me wrong, but L.H. Causeway, she just doesn't get enough credit for her craft, I don't think.
Oh, nice. I love it. Giving me some more people to read that were already on my list because I read her L.H. Causeway's co-write with Penny Reed, the rugby
those
series.
are so good too.
Loved it. Loved.
Yeah, those are great.
And Allie, I just have to like take on little bits, and like we've already discussed, RK, we were like, when are you coming off a sabbatical? But
Exactly.
I think.
People put out one book like every 5 years. I'm like, y'all are not doing no.
Well, I have some fun questions that I
Uh-oh.
randomly picked from your number that you gave to me as your favorite, or as your daughter's
It's my daughter's baseball. My daughter's phone
number.
number. Yeah.
That's what it is. Alrighty. So don't come after me if they're crazy and wild, but
Okay.
they're
Okay.
just meant to be fun. Okay.
Okay.
So, what is the strangest skeleton you ever discovered in someone's closet? Something you learned about someone that's really strange.
I don't know. um. Um.
Fetishes, food legs.
So.
You don't have to give names. You can change the names to
Oh
save the
God. So I met my husband on the internet. Like I met him through Yahoo Personals. Believe it or not.
No
back,
way.
Back before everybody was doing that. So we didn't tell anybody because, people were like, you'll get murdered. Like back then, it was like, you don't date people you don't know. They murder you. Like, but prior to dating him, I was talking to this one guy. And it came to my attention that he really liked feet. And it was not, and it came like after we'd been talking for like 3 or 4 months, and I was kind of into him.
Did he ask you for pictures of your feet?
I don't like my feet, y'all. They're not cute. Like I'm not one of those cute feet girl. I'm hard on my feet. I'm like a barefoot Southern girl. Okay. Like I'm in the yard running around on my feet. Like I don't like shoes. I wear like flip flops 99% of the year. I am Southern. My feet ain't those feet. I was like, you're not gonna like them, honey. It was kind of a deal breaker for me, honestly. I ain't trying to have nobody suck on my calloused toe, girl. I'm sorry.
Oh my goodness.
Then so Tony came along, like literally while I was still talking to this guy.
Woo.
And so he won out because he's weird, but he's not that weird. Not to shame anybody who's into feet, but you don't.
No, not at all. Never.
I'm not.
No.
My feet are not pretty. My feet are feet. I am being honest. Can't be with anybody who likes feet because mine do not live up to the expectations.
Alrighty, so let's get your culinary skills into play here. Okay. If there was a sandwich named after you, what would be on it?
A sandwich named after me.
Yep.
Okay.
What would a sandwich name for you consist of?
See, I'm thinking here because I'm like a basic bitch. I like sandwich. I like, a ham sandwich with cheese, and I love mayo. Whatever it has a lot of mayo on it. So I'm basic, but my husband is not basic. My husband's a vegetarian. So we cook. I know it's a pain in the ass, girl. We cook 99% vegetarian in the house. Like if we go out, I'm like all about a ham sandwich, but like if we cook out here, and he's like really high maintenance too. He's fancy. He's kind of a hippie. He's hippy dippy. So
okay.
He likes so I'm like, would I just have a ham sandwich, or would I have like, what we really would have, which would be like, like roasted tomatoes with 3 different kinds of cheese and peppers and like a homemade hummus, like that. We do a lot of like those, Home Chef and HelloFresh meals because he likes nicer food, and I'm not a great cook. Like I'm basic, like I said. When you're Southern, Like you like do a meat, a potato, and or meat and rice on the side. Tony's like, no, no.
I want some couscous
Yes.
and some portobello mushrooms.
Oh my God. So you were here for dinner last night, is what you're saying.
Oh, goodness.
Yes. So me, it would just be maybe a bologna sandwich, even basic.
Fried or
Tony,
unfried?
yes, yes. And Tony, meanwhile, he's living the high life over here but he does help me cook every night. So we cook our big HelloFresh meal together, and because he is really diverse, like he's vegetarian and he eats a lot of diverse meals. Our kids do, because they were raised that way. I had to grow. Like, I didn't like hummus. I didn't like guacamole. I didn't like, I was like basic white girl when it comes to eating. And he was like, broaden your horizons, like try different foods. And now I love a lot of different foods. And because of that, like Violet, she pretty much, my daughter, she only eats, she's not a big meat eater. She eats a lot of like really healthy vegetables and like fancy foods. Like if I tried to make her nachos the other night.
Oh, goodness.
And I just put some meat on them and cheese and put them in the oven, and I handed it to her. She's like, where's the rest of it, Mom?
I need some tomatoes and guacamole.
I was like,
sour cream.
How does I want to do all that? Because if it's not here, I'm lazy. And she's like, Mom, it needs some lettuce, it needs some tomato, it needs some onions, it needs some black olives, and it needs some guacamole, some sour cream. Like, I don't know what's happening. So I had to go back. I was like, oh my God, I could have just made a nicer dinner at this point. Like, so now Jackson, he's a boy, so he just eats, he can have hot fries for dinner. Let's be honest. Ooh. But yeah, you know the struggle with that. They just want junk.
Because your boy, he's a teenager now too, correct?
13, yes. Yours is about the same age, right?
Yes. And he's a swimmer, so 6 days of practice in the pool.
Yeah.
All the time.
Yeah.
All the time. We graduated from kiddie meals at like 6. So
right. Yeah. Well, the more active they are, and Violet's like that. She's really active too. She loves sports. Jackson's kind of a nerd and like really into music and stuff, but Violet's a sports girl, and so she's tall and big for her age. So she's a big eater too, but she wants a spread. Like, you can't just give her cheese and crackers. She wants a whole charcuterie board, Like, I'm like, oh. But yeah. So like, yeah. So I'm basic, but so it would probably just be a bologna sandwich. Everybody else in my house, it would be like,
something fancy.
Roasted tomato on ciabatta bread.
Alrighty, so would you rather have pizza rolls or pizza bagels?
Pizza bagels. Pizza rolls are not good, in my opinion.
I'm not talking about them. Oh, pizza rolls can be really good. But then again, if it's a pizza roll, it turns my way. I think it turns into a calzone. It's no longer a pizza roll; it's a calzone.
Right. But like the pizza rolls that you buy, like the bag.
Oh,
you
yeah.
put them in the microwave and you chew on them, and then the inside burns you.
I was just about to say the inside is lava.
Pizza rolls make me mad. Because I'm like, this is just sauce and some bread. You didn't put any cheese. And it always burns you. Girl, you know. Now, bagels, they're evenly distributed. I like how all your questions about food, because I'm a professional when it comes to food.
Let me look. I need to. Oh my goodness. Okay, this next one is not about food, but we could probably make it into food. So okay, so the last question is, what's the funniest / most disappointing / weirdest, etc. text you've ever received? So let's figure it out about food.
So specific. I don't know. That was hard. Girl, if you saw the text I get from author friends, you would probably die. I get a lot of funny texts from them.
So it's about books that you read and things like that.
Yeah, no, mostly it's just about their whips. Like, or like like sometimes you get like we have mess up timelines. We mess up. There's some funny stuff said between us that were like, can you believe? Like, I did get a text from my friend. I can remember this one. Did get a text from my friend Megan. She beta reads for me. She's awesome, and she was like, "You had her put on her helmet 3 times in this paragraph." And I was like, "What?" Because I read over my stuff, and I was like, "I read this paragraph probably 3 times before I ever sent it to her." Like,
And that's probably why you read it 3 times and you had her
Yeah.
put her helmet on 3 times.
Yeah, because Weston's a bike rider, so he has a Harley. He has a Harley. So she said, Weston put it on her head, and then she put it on her head 2 more times, all within like 300 words. I was like, no. Like, and I do crazy stuff. You know, when you're writing, you do stuff like that. And yeah, so I get a lot of stuff like that. And from other writer friends who say funny stuff like that make you laugh, but it's also like, shit, that's sad. Like, like, but also
I missed that.
I missed that.
Oh my gosh. Well, Amie, thank you for spending some time with me and chit-chatting about your work and
Oh
your process and everything like that. I hope that so many more people go out and read your books because they're
Oh, thank
amazing.
you. You're always a
And
pleasure to hang out with.
yes, thank you. Okay, so I hope you guys enjoyed that little snippet of learning about Amie Knight's books. I hope that you will go check them out. I will have her website listed down in the description box so you can go check her out, find her everywhere, and enjoy her books. As always, if you enjoyed this video, please give it a big thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. Also, there is a feedback form and an author suggestion form for this series, as well as an author interest form down in the description box so you guys can help me improve my channel, suggest some authors that I need to go reach out to, and authors, if you're watching this and you want to join in the fun, please do fill out that form and you may get contacted by me so we can schedule something. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you in another video. If you go